right. Welcome to the second episode of currently FinTech with Friends. Nabs has a couple other names that he came up with. What are they, Nabs?
I like 3 Shades of Gray or 5 O'Clock Shadow.
3 Shades of Gray.
Rich. Trying to insinuate that I have grays?
Well, not on your face, but who knows where else
they do.
You might have gray hair.
Yeah.
I'm always wearing a 5 o'clock shadow, I think.
Has nothing to do with FinTech, though.
I wanted to do Hang 10, right?
I'm not a surfer.
What?
Hang 10 with Colton, Nabil, and Rich. I don't know. I just like hanging 10.
Okay.
It's cool.
Have you ever hung 10 before?
No, I try. It's actually a lot harder than it sounds. I've hung 5, but never 10.
Hey.
Yeah.
10's tough.
10's real
Yeah,
tough.
Yeah.
You got to walk out there, and then hopefully the
Not
board
fall.
doesn't flip over on you.
Right.
I don't know. You watch the.
Just getting up.
Yeah.
Just getting up.
Yeah,
is
right.
tough,
That's
right.
What's weird though about longboarding is, I think women longboarders, like if you watch the professionals, women longboarders are way better to watch than men, and not because it's like women versus men. It's literally because they're more graceful.
Yeah.
And longboarding has a ton of style points, and it's very fluid, whereas a short board is you're out there and you're just fucking ripping it. I just found that interesting. It's something.
Yeah. We have a guest today.
Oh yeah, we do.
We should introduce
So we did say last podcast, we were like, let's bring someone on from the industry. Nabil mentioned Chris Morris. Ladies and gentlemen, Chris Morris.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you inviting me here.
welcome.
Fantastic. I was very excited to get an invite. And it was only 20 minutes away.
Yeah.
That also helps.
And it was also 24 hours ago.
And it's free coffee and cheap parking down here.
Yeah.
There you go.
It was 24 hours ago. That's right.
Literally.
Yeah.
Chris was like,
hey, man, you want to come and join our podcast? Sure.
Yeah. What time?
Yeah, what time?
All right. So
But Chris, tell us a little bit, who you're with, what do you do there?
Sure.
I think that would be good.
Yeah.
Everyone else knows us 3.
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, thanks again for inviting me. This is fantastic. I'm very excited. And it's free form, which I love. So just riffing here.
He's part of the fam.
Yeah. I mean, and so I'll introduce myself in a second, but I got to tell you guys, the last time I was here, I think it was probably 2020 or during the pandemic or right after. Actually, that's when we started our journey, was during the pandemic. But I finally, after everything was lifted and we finally came out here, myself, Don Banowitz, I was
What
here.
up, Don?
This is one of the reasons why I moved from Chicago to Austin.
Yo.
So isn't that crazy?
The warm weather or Route Fusion?
Actually, so I think the energy, right? The energy. So we came here, we had a really productive conversation, probably spent an hour and a half together.
Yeah.
And then I got outside. Everybody's in t-shirts in the middle of February, right? I didn't pack anything, I probably had a sweater with me thinking it was going to get cold. There's no way it could be warm here. And I call my wife right after I walk out. And
Amber's the best.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate that. So I said, Amber, I think you and Oliver are going to love it here. We should just do President's Day weekend here because we were looking at places to move. And I basically raised my hand at that point. I go, these guys just invited me to pickleball.
Yeah.
We're having a meeting. They're like, hey, we're going to do some pickleball if you're interested. And
There's a pickleball court literally down the street.
yeah, and you guys became little pickleballers for a little while, right? You got hot into it.
Yeah.
I said, they're playing pickleball. I feel like the vibe. I want to play some tennis down here. I go, let's just come down here and check it out. In the back of my mind, I'm thinking, there's some magic here in Austin.
Hey.
I want to move down here, and here we are. 2023 in the middle of the summer, no less.
Yeah.
FinTech with Friends
I moved down
podcast,
here.
also
There's
known as the
something-
Fuse.
There's something I need to know, though. Do you miss the Chicago pizza? Because we had a long discussion last week about the pizza scene in here in Austin. I'm disappointed because I moved here from New York.
Right, yeah.
You are feeling optimistic, disappointed. What's the story there on the pizza scene?
Yeah, look, it's pizza's in my DNA, I think, because I grew up on deep dish pizza. I've had enough of deep dish, to be honest with you, and I go back to plenty to get that pizza. I've only found one place that we kind of gravitated to, Toss Pizza.
Ooh,
Oh,
Cave.
Toss isn't
Toss
bad.
is good.
Toss
Toss
has
is
got
bad.
the thin crust,
Yeah.
Right? It's massive.
You know, they also have really good wings.
Yeah.
Where's
So-
this place? I gotta go there.
There's
It's on BK.
It's
one in BK's. There's one in South
So close
First.
to you.
There's no, I think that one
Toss be
shut
close to my
down.
place.
I don't.
All right.
Yeah, it's
All right.
Yeah, but there's a few.
it's not bad.
I'd have to pick
I
up
actually
some pie.
I actually enjoy Toss quite a bit. They have their buff chick is really good.
yeah.
It's really good.
And they've got a play area.
Yeah, they do.
Oh,
For the
that's
kids, they
nice.
play soccer and throw the
Yeah.
football around. So
No kidding.
my, Oliver goes out there, sees some friends from school.
Yeah.
He blows off some steam. My wife and I get a chance to actually connect and catch up.
How's that
over
going,
some
by the
beer
way,
and pizza.
for Ollie? Is
What's
is school like? Has he found friends? Like, has it been easy for him?
Yeah. I wouldn't say it's easy. He's got a little bit of an edge.
Yeah, I mean,
coming
any
from
kid.
coming from the mean streets of the
Yeah.
of downtown Chicago. So he's got that kind of side eye going.
Yeah.
Like, all right, everybody here is really nice. What's going on here? What's the deal? You know?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Why,
yeah,
they're
he-
too nice. Why are they so nice?
Yeah. And so he's made some friends, and even today. So last night he had an earache. He had a fever. Woke up this morning, wasn't feeling all that great. But the only thing that drove him to actually get to school even late was the fear of missing out.
Oh.
His friends. He wanted to hang out with his friends. That was motivation enough to get up and go to school. So,
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think he's adjusting. It's definitely an adjustment.
Mine tries to employ how do I get out of school? Like, what strategy do I implement this morning?
Yeah, well,
It's
I
the
know that too.
opposite. I don't get it.
Yeah. So, look. Anyway, guys. Again, appreciate coming down here, spending some time with you guys. My name's Chris Morris, and I'm our senior vice president of our enterprise sales and partnerships, which ultimately means I work with fintechs on a daily basis, trying to understand how you guys operate, your model, what your purpose is, and help you essentially integrate our cross-border payment solutions so that you can set the world on fire.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
for reference, Corpay used to be FX and Cambridge, and then they combined, and they are our oldest and longest and I don't want to say favorite because I don't want to piss any of our partners off,
Yeah.
but Chris is here. He's kind of
I'm diplomatic.
also funny story. So Chris moves to Austin, and we actually didn't know. Don was like, "Yeah, Chris just moved to Austin." I was like, "Wait, what the fuck? Chris moved to Austin?" So I text Chris. He's like, "Yeah, we just moved here." And in my head, I had this feeling. I was like, "I bet he moved into my neighborhood." I don't know why. I just it just feels like this is where he would be. So I text him like, "Yo, where'd you get a house?" He's like, he said the neighborhood or whatever. I was like, "Get the fuck out of here! You're my neighbor." Goes even deeper. So his realtor turns out to be Jeannie Parker. Sorry, and Jeannie Parker is my best friend / roommate from college's brother's wife's mom.
Crazy.
Wild.
Can't make this up.
Yeah. So
Who also lives in the neighborhood.
yeah, who also lives in the neighborhood as well. So yeah, really small world. And then so anyways, Chris moves in. Obviously, I think you're enjoying Austin.
I love it. And we got to plug Jeannie Parker here. She's pretty amazing.
Jeannie Parker's great.
Set
So,
up a link.
so you got Jeannie Parker. If you're looking to buy real estate in Austin, you got Jeannie Parker, you got Linda Traylor, which is her daughter, and then you got Shelby Traylor, which is Linda's sister-in-law. All three of them, awesome realtors. Gonna plug them. Highly doubtful anyone actually reaches out to them, but just in case,
Yeah.
we want 1%.
Yeah, I'll take 1%. And I'll also throw on the most emotionally intelligent realtor I've ever known, and the patience she demonstrated with us remotely looking at things was pretty cool.
Jeannie's awesome.
So we're really
Yeah,
happy.
that
to
must
be
have been an
in
interesting buying experience. Did you walk the home before you closed on it?
So my wife flew down, saw it, pitched me, and then I made one look at it, and the story there is that I said no. But guess where we live today?
Nice.
Yeah, I always win 0% of the time.
You always win.
Overruled.
0%.
Except for when you play Rich in tennis.
Yeah,
Then
that's
you
right.
then you
Yeah.
spank him.
Yeah.
That's true.
Well, Rich has some memorable shots on me. Let me tell you. The last shot there, so I left depressed. That last volley that you made. left me
little
depressed
drink.
and wanting more. I'm calling Rich up. Hey, you want another? Want to go again, Rich?
Yeah. So Chris, you're a tennis player.
I like to think that I play tennis, and if I had more time, I would be some sort of a tennis player.
We need you to join Barton Creek
Chris is
Country
a
Club.
really good tennis player for the audience. That
Yeah,
cares.
Are you about to say for his age?
For my height, weight, and age,
No,
and for looking clumsy most of the time. No.
Chris serves like 100 miles an hour
Yeah, it's pretty gnarly.
at least.
He was
Probably
like,
more.
"Hey, you want to go play tennis?" I'm like, "I mean, I play pickleball. I guess I can play tennis."
Chris
is-
like, hey, you think you can hit back my serve? Yeah, I can hit back your serve. Yeah, of course. Get back there, thing whizzes by. I'm like, maybe I can't.
I like to measure my serves based on kilometers, not miles per hour.
There you go.
It's like that was 168.
Yeah.
I've been watching the Aussie Open late night. Been watching that Aussie Open late night. When I can with one eyeball open. So it's all kilometers. I'm like, woof.
But I'm coming for you at some point. Hopefully by the end of the summer.
Good. Let's
Coming
make
for
an
ya.
effort. Like, let's get
Yeah.
some court time in.
Well, it warms up next
Definitely.
week.
I was just gonna say,
Yeah.
I mean, the one thing
No
that we
rain,
don't have in
warms
Chicago
up.
is, everything is indoor right now in Chicago. Out here,
You can still,
you
yeah.
can play just about anywhere, get on
Yep.
any court
As
whenever
long as
you
it's
want
not
to.
wet.
Yeah, it's a beautiful.
This
spot.
has actually been a pretty
lot of
brutal.
Free courts
Yeah,
too.
yeah,
a
that's
lot
right.
Of free courts.
That's right.
which is
Hey,
great.
we played together too.
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
So the
we
court
took
that
the
we
kids
played
out.
on was really
It's
groomed.
well
nicely.
kept.
Yeah, well
Yeah.
kept. Absolutely.
The kids didn't play, just kind of messed around. I wish they would get more serious about anything.
Yeah.
Anyway,
It's funny how sport in general teaches you a little bit about life, right?
Yeah.
Like the one thing about tennis is preparation. It's
Yeah.
the first thing that you think of when you're playing a sport. Is in tennis, it's not all just reacting to a ball that's coming your way. It's seeing it before it actually comes over the net, looking at the spin while it comes over the net, and moving your body and adjusting. So it's really staying nimble, right? Which is
Yeah.
a really important part of life and in business is staying nimble, which is definitely what Route Fusion does. You're very nimble.
well, the greatest players see the play 2 plays ahead.
That's
at
right.
least,
Yeah.
It's chess.
in any sport.
It's chess with a racket and ball
Yeah,
in between the lines.
yeah.
It's a board. The lines of the board. Yeah, good point.
So tell me, on a business side, I've never asked you this before, but how did you get into, like I have an interesting story on how I got into global payments and FX and all that. How did you end up in this industry?
Yeah.
And how long ago was it?
Yeah. Well, thanks. I'm trying to actually jog my memory. It's been so long. You see the grays in the beard now for me.
Yeah.
So, I was bright-eyed and bushy-tailed when I got into this business. I came from, so that was 18 years ago.
Okay.
February of 2005 was when I reported into the Chicago office, but I didn't even get to the Chicago
Of
office.
Cambridge Mercantile?
It was actually a company called TravelX.
Oh yeah, I used to
Commercial
work
foreign
with them.
exchange.
Yeah, I was there for a little bit.
So my
TravelX, they're killing it now.
yeah, my boss at the time was my former boss at a company called Pitney Bowes, which I think
Yep.
a lot of you know, publicly traded company. So I kind of came up in the sales ranks and then field sales management. So I had a team and also sold at Pitney Bowes. And my boss at the time, Matt Walnowitz, he took an interview with TravelX because he wasn't feeling some of the corporate love over at Pitney Bowes at the time. It was completely different from him, right? We were selling technology, mail machines, if you're thinking
Yeah.
about, the product, but also technology and integration and also some finance. So that's kind of what I leaned on was the financial aspect of in the ROI.
Yeah.
So he said, "Hey, look, I'm really liking this company called TravelX. Chris, I think you're going to like it too. This is really right up your alley." I made a personal decision to, because I was looking at other opportunities at the time as well. I followed Matt over to TravelX. We opened up the first office in Chicago, downtown, on Madison Avenue, and my career kind of went from there. Like various.
Once you get pulled in, you can't get out.
No, you're
This
right.
is-
It's the
this
dark
is-
side.
Yep.
It's the
In
dark
the
side,
FX
bright
thing,
side,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
You
It's
find
the
you
bright
had a,
side of the dark side. If
You
that's
find
even
you
a
had a
thing.
knack for it
Yeah,
in the beginning.
I had some really good mentors. I would say a lot of mentors, in the business too. You know, management shifts quite a bit.
Yeah.
So I was probably privileged to be able to see a lot of various different management styles and sales styles as well. So I had a baseline going in, but I really picked up from a lot of great people in that business that are still around today, and some have retired even. So I started the journey as a salesperson in Chicago, talking to mid-size and large corporates. I always had this real curiosity on how to make things more efficient, not just cost savings or ROI on hard costs, but really like what's going on in your environment, the whole holistic process for it.
Sure.
Right.
And so I started on the journey. I had some opportunities to look at integration really early on in what would that be? It would be the kind of early 2000s, like 2005, 2006. Travelex acquired a company called Roosh International, and I think that was a catalyst to meeting more talented people in the industry. Some other senior great leadership and mentorship there. Really also carved a path in vertical markets. So I became a vertical specialist in law firms, selling to universities as well. And I moved to Washington, D.C. from Chicago to take more of a visible role over sales. And that led me to Cambridge ultimately. So moving from Travelex acquired Roosh. I moved over to the DC office of Roosh. That was the headquarters. Spent time with some really great leaders there. And then ultimately, Western Union Business Solutions ended up acquiring the whole...
Wubs.
Yep, the Wubs business. Acquired the Travelex commercial business. I think they... the other side of the Travelex, which is really the booths in the ports, that was sold to someone else. So that wasn't part of our remit anymore. And then from there, that's how I moved to Cambridge. I got a call from someone I trusted, said, if you're looking for a new opportunity, something a little entrepreneurial, something where you really get to forge your own path, take some control of your destiny, come on over. It took me about 3 years to realize that destiny. I would say 3 years of them coming back to me, and I had a meeting in Toronto with the ownership and leadership there, and that's all I needed. I came to Cambridge, started as a director. With more success, I was given more responsibility over the teams and leadership roles, and then ultimately I went and really kind of morphed and migrated into what the role is today, which is overseeing our integrated payments, our financial institutions practice, and then also our channel partners and alliances group, which you're a part of.
Yep.
So
Yep.
That's my journey.
That's crazy. Nabs.
I was going to ask, like, you said something that was interesting. You're really interested and intrigued about how to make systems more efficient, right? And to me, that means fintech, because that's what fintech is really all about. Is about solving holes, filling holes, solving problems, and making things more efficient.
Got to fill those holes.
Yeah. And a lot of the fintech leaders, you know, they come into it with these great ideas, but then they don't understand the cross-border payments piece, the implications of what it means to add an international payment offering to your neobank or to your BaaS solution or to your card payment solution or your factoring business. All of these things touch a payment that may or may not cross a border. And people don't generally appreciate that much. And then when they learn about it, i.e. Richard and Colton, great examples, like, we need some expertise, right? We need help. Let's go to FX in Cambridge, which is now Corpay, and figure this all out. And that's when I think we started down the path, right? About international payments. This is where we need to be. A lot of people don't get this. Let's go down this way. And you guys are a big part of that, that path, I think, Corpay, in teaching us, in fintechs in general, about, you know, what it takes to be successful and how to acquire customers in this area as well.
Yeah.
I mean, what's your view on the fintech scene? Is that your primary, like, when it comes to your partnerships and alliances, is that where you're seeing the most traction, is the fintech solutions?
Yeah, thanks. I am. I'm seeing it. First of all, I'm proud to be part of the community of fintech, right? That's what we are. That's our DNA now. is as a fintech, and essentially what it means to be part of that community is we reciprocate with one another, right? So while you're saying that Corpay and the group that helps and assistant services, you guys are teaching you and educating you on everything from subject matter expertise to foreign exchange. You guys have a lot of knowledge that you're giving us.
Yep.
So it's really nutritional for both parties and the entire community that we're growing together like this, from customer acquisition.
Yeah.
But ultimately, the way that I view this whole thing is looking at the very origin of why we're here. And it is all about user experience. And I'm not talking necessarily about the UX, but the actual user's journey, what they're feeling, the pain points, what they tell us, how we adapt, how we're conditioned by them. Ultimately, we're conditioned by them in creating the technology that we're offering and the solutions that we're providing. And that user experience for many fintechs and many of the people that are the beneficiaries of the fintech experience is that at the end of the day, they need to get the money that they want and need in their bank account on time. And in many cases for the full value of what's been received, what needs to be received. Right. Because it's a lifestyle transaction. It's a quality of life transaction. And I think that's where our passion comes from. The root of it is the fact that somebody needs that money because they need to make decisions in their whole household at the end of the day. Whether I'm a gamer, whether I'm a W-9 type of, a contingent workforce.
Yep.
And I need the payment, a gig worker, freelancing, that payment is going to my bills.
Yep.
Right? My food on my plate, the shelter that I have, my kids' tuition, right? Field trip, whatever, right? It's something that's important and meaningful. And for us being able to get those funds into those locations, into those families' bank accounts is important. And they educate us every day.
Yep.
Ultimately, they educate us. And then you have Rich in the technology piece, right? Colton in the vision, Nabil understanding the commercial outfit, how to package that up and come to market. Those are the three big pieces when it comes to the fintech world.
Do you think, so Nabs, Rich, Chris, when we look at the payment space, right, I want to say, from what I've heard from people that have been around for a while, so Nabs, Chris, like you guys have seen a bunch, there seems to be a lot of competition that has spurred up in the past 10 years. What's the future look like over the next 10 years? Is there consolidation? Is there more competition that spurs up? Is it more regulation? What does the next 10 years look like?
The FI level, the regulated level, or the layer below, which is Route Fusion, or the layer below that is where we're enabling all these fintechs to
I
come
think
to
I'm speaking more like the Corpays, the Route Fusions, the Tunes, TerraPays, Neums, Monexes, you name it.
I think at that level, I think there's going to be a lot of M&A activity over the next 3-4 years, personally. Kind of like the Visa acquisition of Currency Cloud, or the Cambridge, the FleetCor acquisition of AFEX. I think it's going to be driven by reach and payment product type. That's my impression.
By payment product type?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
So, for example, if you've got a licensed financial institution that has a reach into Southeast Asia with their own bank accounts, holding balances, right? And you've got a very strong North American company that where their customers are saying, I got to get to this place and I got to reach it fast and I got to make sure my payment gets there in real time. Well, one way to do it is to build it yourself.
Sure.
And that could take multiple years and a lot of money and a
Partner.
big compliance team. The other way is to partner. And the third way is to acquire. And sometimes an acquisition provides the greatest balance sheet result.
Yeah, it's classic partner and then build get really close and then do the act.
Mutually agree to join forces.
By payment type though. Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah. Now, that leads me to like trying to understand the impetus of FleetCor wanting to merge Cambridge and Associated Foreign Exchange (AFEX) into Corpay. That I didn't understand. It felt to me like it was an acquisition of the book of business. Is that kind of accurate?
To touch on the earlier point of,
Yeah.
of acquisitions by nature and what I see in the future, and then I'll certainly go into what
Yeah,
the
yeah.
AFX acquisition. That was critical for us, actually.
Oh, okay.
The AFX acquisition was fantastic. But just to address that first question, I see that the space is going to consolidate.
Mm-hmm.
I think that acquisitions are primarily complementary in nature. And so looking at feature sets that you don't necessarily have, but also some maturity in the book of business where there's some stickiness. So if a fintech can, and it's no secret that FleetCor, makes tremendous amount of acquisitions, spends quite a bit of time looking over the market for sensible acquisition targets.
Yeah.
And you've seen a couple land on the Corpay cross-border side with AFEX, right? To me, the AFEX acquisition was also complementary in nature. Now, it seemed like maybe from the outside, it was an acquisition of a book of business, but to be perfectly honest with you, a lot of that book of business is no longer with the organization. We were looking for talent as well. Like the AFEX group brought a ton of tremendous know-how and talent, driven folks who really understood the business.
Holler at Bill.
Hey,
Bill
look,
Table.
Laura
of course,
McLaughlin.
Bill Table.
Yeah, Laura.
Laura McLaughlin. I mean, those folks are.
She's a gem.
Oh,
Yeah.
I wish Laura would come work at Route Fusion so
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
I'm serious. Every time I see her, I say that too.
She.
I have the opposite wish, by the way. Because she ultimately is working for it.
No, I know.
I feel that Laura is, a significant person in the fintech space, and Corpay needs to promote that a little bit more in making her more visible to, the fintech space. I'm not criticizing anything, but I think that Laura
she's
a hidden gem in the fintech space.
We can put her on the
now
podcast.
she's going to get a ton of job offers.
Yeah, she's about to get.
Sorry, Corpay.
Yeah.
But
She's going to need an agent now.
Yeah,
Thank
she's
you.
an agent.
Yeah, she's gonna need an agent with all 12 of our listeners.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Yeah, you're right. And that's great feedback,
One of
by
many
the way.
amazing
I think,
women at Corpay.
yeah, look, wholeheartedly,
Yeah.
I think her and so many others in that group really need a lot more attention, and I think that's great feedback. We need to shine some light on that. When she stops being as busy as she is, she's hurtling at 150 miles per hour. Take a pause, take a breath, do some promotion. Let's get a spotlight on Laura and a lot of folks in that team too.
Yep.
Laura is a gem, right? She has vision, she has drive and determination. She's a true professional. And she's well organized, which really helps me.
Yeah.
It might team out so much in terms of building that process and executing. She's really on the execution side of a lot of things for us.
Her and Bill. I don't know what I would do without Bill. The amount of times that I call Bill.
Bill's phenomenal.
Yeah. And he just picks up and, we figure things out. That guy, he's so knowledgeable.
We sent him that red phone, right?
The red phone.
Did you send him a little phone?
But Bill's
so that every time you called him,
hold on. Let's
Colton Nabil.
Let's plug Bill's wife's cookie company. Did you know about this?
Oh yeah.
Are they? I haven't ordered them
head?
yet.
Not only do I know about it, but I'm a customer.
Oh,
you go.
yeah.
The biggest
on that list.
cookies ever.
Do they ship?
What is it
do
called?
they ship
Sweet
from Florida?
Sweet Petal Cookies. Sweetpetalscookies.com.
Yeah.
These cookies look insane. Look at this. Oh my god. They have the white chocolate macadamia nut one is just
I'm
calling
gonna
my
have to
name.
place an
Birthday
order.
cake funfetti stuffer. So it's stuffed with icing.
Yeah.
Oh my, that's insane.
Yeah.
They're massive.
Stuffed with icing, huh?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I need that in my life.
That's the cure for any sweet tooth.
No
One of
kidding.
those does the job.
Ship it over. To
You
the
won't
office.
want two, but you'll want one for later.
Yeah.
At one sitting, I think for me one's enough. But it's good to have your reserves.
Bill,
Bill,
all
you
right.
better get ready, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Staff up.
By the way, we had a bet on how many people would actually listen to the episode. like the full episode.
Yeah.
So far, I know of 3.
We got 3 months has to.
So you three all listened to the episode
We all
Yeah.
cover to cover.
I actually wait on Spotify.
Yeah.
Specifically,
But
I haven't
only-
listened to it on Spotify.
we've got like 12 unique listeners, that was cool. But I don't know. They didn't, I don't know if they listened all the way through. But I had 3 different people text me and say, "I listened all the way through."
That's cool.
So yeah, that's not bad. So yeah.
Chris is a celebrity. We're gonna get a lot more.
Oh yeah, we're gonna promote this.
Corpay.
Um,
you just gotta mention
Is it possible
Corpay,
to have
Chris,
negative
Bill's,
people listen
Bill
to
Tingle.
it? We have -3 listeners right now.
How is that?
Thumbs
How does
down.
that work? All right. So there has been in the news lately. Is everyone familiar with UPI for India? It's their United Payments Interface or whatever. It's their real-time payment system that they built. Apparently it's fast. All I know is that sending payments, first topic is like, why is sending money to India and or out of India so difficult for a currency that like prides itself on like, you know, their real-time.
Liquidity and all
Yeah.
that,
Speed,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, like
And delivery,
why is it so difficult? Like, what is it? What is it? I mean, Nabs, Rich, Chris. I mean, I have my thoughts,
to
but
get INR in or to
let's say
I've never attempted to get INR out.
I think INR out's pretty much impossible.
yeah.
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 But INR in.
Yeah, if you find somebody,
Yeah.
I'm asking the tech. If you find somebody, let me know.
I think regulation makes INR out nearly impossible.
Nearly impossible. Yeah.
But INR in, like, why is it still difficult to send INR in? That's one of the hottest requests that I feel like we get is like INR stuff.
I mean, a lot of the things that I see are in compliance. It's a more difficult regulatory environment to deal with. I mean, just our.
It could be tax revenue related, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, but
The-
just our
the
beneficiary
government wanting to get
requirements
their haircut
are
on.
Like,
elevated
exactly
for India
the
specifically.
revenue, whatever the tax thing is called, the IRS equivalent in India, wanting to ensure that they get their cut on any sort of transaction, whether it's an export of goods, money's coming in, got to make sure that taxes
Yeah.
are paid. It could be related to that.
Well,
Let
I
me
mean,
ask you some
1.5
questions
billion
about
people,
that.
you gotta get
What kind
tax
of
revenue.
difficulty are you? Sorry, I didn't mean
Yeah.
to stop you there, Abs. What kind of difficulty are you experiencing with that? What's so difficult for you?
Well, I mean, the first difficulty is some of the buyers that come to us, they would like rates below
That's
mid market.
So that is.
I don't.
The first thing that came to your mind is what I see.
What is that? Like, I have never in my life I don't understand that. And like, if somebody is in India or whatever and they're building something and they want this, like, I'm literally speaking to you right now.
Yeah.
What is it that people think that they should be able to get below the market rate for what that currency is trading at?
Yeah.
Not even like, you know, like literally like -5 basis points, where effectively whoever's moving the money is losing money. How does that make any sense?
I think
And how
It's
can
a
you
great
even
way to
ask
start
for
a
that?
negotiation, right?
How can you? I mean, yeah, shit.
You're gonna pay me.
Yeah.
to check this.
You're
And
gonna
use
pay
it.
me money to send this money. You understand?
I think a lot
That's
of
some
it-
mafia shit right there.
I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that locally at the shops, you can get better than market rate
Yeah.
in banknote transactions, right? And when you come over here and you're like, well, why can't I get that banknote transaction at the local shop? And you know,
Is that because
that's
the
number
local?
one.
Is that because the local shop
Black
is?
market.
It's what I'm saying.
it's
It's
black
just
market
black
shop,
market.
yeah.
So they don't really. Okay.
It's legit banknotes, but it's a black market rate.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
A Hawala type transaction.
Hawala,
So
yeah,
basically,
yeah.
somebody over here, a shop over here, takes in U.S. dollars, calls their cousin, give this person, he's going to show up in an hour, this many Indian rupees, and this is the deal we negotiated. It could be better than the
actual-
the posted interbank rate. That's one thing that's going on, right?
That's interesting.
That
Yeah,
is
I think,
interesting.
I think personally, like the issue is the price point of it, right? We're not local in terms of the fact that we're not sitting there negotiating on the street,
Right.
right? And
Yeah.
so we have to take what we're given, and quite frankly, I think the delivery lands fine, and it lands within a reasonable amount of time, at least from the way
Yeah.
that I'm seeing it. So real time, like within an hour into India is pretty,
But
pretty
what are
standard
the
from a fintech perspective.
for India? Isn't there?
But the rates are a little bit challenging.
But isn't there, Rich? Isn't there limits on?
There are typically INR limits that can be sent, but I mean, India they have the whole leapfrog effect with payment method, right?
What is
they
that?
built the IFSC, the India Financial Services Code or something like that.
The IFSC code, which we capture, right?
Which is basically the crux of their internal payment methods, and that's how they support their real-time payments.
That's right. There's additional pieces of information that need to go with the transaction for it to land in the fastest way possible.
Wait.
And being able to collect that on the front end is the only real way to use that rail.
But one of the issues, like I was mentioning, because the regulatory environment there is you often need a document to send a B2C payment, which is obviously difficult from a user experience perspective that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Whenever you're going to require a document per payment, it's a challenge.
This is the part that gets me. So check this out. So I'm on Wise. If there's one thing that I do love about TransferWise, I think they've done a brilliant job of like documenting a lot of things. So I'm actually on their website.
Absolutely, yeah.
Which we should have something.
Shout out
like
to
this.
them. Their whole transparency initiative.
Yeah.
A few
Also,
years back was.
they did a bunch of layoffs in Austin. So if any
Could
of
be
you,
some talent.
yeah, hit us up. No, so check this out. This is what doesn't make sense to me. You can send up to 100 million INR per transfer to a private individual, okay? Or you can send up to 1.5 million INR per working day to businesses.
Rail dependent.
I know, but why the difference in individual versus business?
Couldn't tell you.
I mean, that's that's a massive or 100x difference. Like, it's insane. Why?
Maybe again the quality of life transaction. I think
Yeah.
getting the money into the hands of the individuals.
That's a
maybe.
good point.
Yeah. Look, and I'm off the cuff here. I don't know.
Yeah,
the
no,
specifics.
It could
That's
also
how my logic
be.
works. Yeah.
It could also be the bank being used in the final leg
That's the
of
counterparty.
delivery, and they have their own.
But I also
policies,
think this
procedures.
is per payment type because there's no limits on Swift, right? Like if you were to send
No,
Swift
yeah,
wire, it's fine.
yeah.
But this
It's
is to
just-
go over that
It's just
local
slower
rail.
than that rail. Yeah.
It blows my. Is there like maybe there's just some type of like increased fraud with businesses or like I don't know. It's just such a because typically you see it the opposite. Like everywhere else in the U.S., it's like businesses like are a lot less. I don't want to say scrutinized, but payments flow more regularly. And if you're sending like 100 million INR to an individual, like, let's put this in, I'm not going to do the conversion, but like, it would make no sense if I could send $100 million to Chris today, right? No problem.
But
like,
not to Chris's
But I can't pay
LLC.
me.
but then if Chris invoices me
Right.
and like I have to like from his business for like lawn work that I did or whatever, and I can only send Chris 1.5 million from a business to business. How does that? I don't know. If anyone knows, I would love to like hear an expert on specifically that because
Same
that one
here.
always
I
blows
can
my.
put you in touch with a couple people.
Yeah, there you
I
go.
would know.
Maybe we get someone
Yeah.
on a like a call next time with.
The people that I'm thinking of are probably raising, if they're listening to this at all, ever, they're raising their hand going, Chris, say this. No.
You can say whatever you want. Nobody's listening.
Yeah. I know. 3 people. No. But I would say what I do know is that the folks in India that are getting paid regularly from a corporate, so the B2C transaction, if there's a regular payment, and a lot of the workforce in India is remote, right? They're working in other countries. So they have to have a special relationship with their bank to let them know this is the company that I'm working for this particular project. The remitter here, or the company name is going to land on the remitter line in the account. So you're going to see that it's maybe a cruise line or a shipping vessel or a construction outfit, depending upon what projects they're working on.
Yeah.
And so they actually have to have these conversations with their bank to let them know, look, I'm going to be out of the region, and I need my family to get that money because they need to pay the bills on my behalf. So they do have to make a special arrangement with the bank to let them know, and then we find out about it, through partners.
Yep.
If there's a challenge. where they say, hey, look, the name that's coming through isn't the name of the employer, what's happening here. And so we'll have to go back and see how things were structured and make the change. We're adaptive, so it happens pretty fast.
So if you're in India and you're an independent contractor, like let's say you make most of your income on Upwork, are you in basically constant communication with your bank? I guess if it was Upwork, you could say like Upwork is going to be paying me, and I'm sure they have
Upwork is
provider.
It depends on what currency you're getting. If you're getting INR, you're probably not in constant contact with your bank because the rate you're already getting the rate, is already done, and it's depositing through that local gateway directly into the bank. But if you're getting U.S. dollars sent through from Upwork, you may be in constant contact with your bank because you may be negotiating with the bank. And I do see quite a bit of negotiation on the street, from what I hear, like in country.
Interesting.
So I think it is dependent upon that.
Yeah.
But ultimately, if you're going to be getting paid regularly from outside of India into your bank, there's a conversation that you have to have, I think, between the owner of the account and the banker.
Nice.
So the consumer can actually negotiate with the bank.
I mean, you could negotiate with the bank here. I had
It depends on the bank if they're listening.
So my Spanish teacher is she bought a house in Colombia, and she called me, and she's like, can I ask you a question? Like, I bought this house in Colombia. Like, how do I what's the best way of getting the money there? Da, 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 da. And I walked her through it, and what she ultimately ended up doing was going to her bank in Colombia. She got a U.S. dollar account. She moved the U.S. dollars over, and then she negotiated a rate with the Colombian, because I think the purchase of the house was like a few $100,000, right?
Sure. I mean, if you're doing a large sum like that.
But I guess you're saying on a small scale.
Right.
The negotiation, Colton, could be as simple as, I want a live rate. Don't give me the morning's rate. Don't give me a stale rate.
If you
don't give me yesterday's close rate.
Yeah.
Just give me the active
If you
rate.
go to you fundamentally cannot do that with like people like Frost Bank. Love Frost.
Yeah.
Personally, I check there. I bank there with my personal checking and whatnot. But like you and I would argue the majority of banks in the U.S., just because they're not set up this way, they all use stale rates, and they cannot give you a live rate. So it's not even
dealing
like
with retail.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You're at retail. And most businesses, including some fintechs, are dealing with a bank manager, business bank manager at the retail level. They can't access their capital markets desk to get that leverage.
I think that's one of the hardest. I think that's one of the hardest. The hardest problems with selling into a bank is that, from an FX perspective, they're some of the smartest people that you've ever dealt with, but they have never necessarily had to think about FX. It's always just been sort of like, oh yeah, we plug into our banker's bank, or we plug into whoever, and the rate is what the rate is. A lot of times they're not even monetizing it, which I find crazy.
That's true.
Right? And so the education piece of literally educating the bankers on why they should be monetizing FX, it just takes so long. It just takes so. I mean, you guys, dude, this is what you
have
guys.
an entire FI.
This is a pretty big practice for us here. I have experience in these conversations. That you're speaking of, and a lot of times you're right. It can be an overlooked stream of opportunity and revenue, right? For
mostly with
banks.
Regionals, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Ultimately, that's actually right. So, credit unions and regional banks. I think that these are opportunities that they need to seize and capture. But what they're thinking. Ultimately, what they're thinking is, I really want the solution, because what the solution does for me, and for our members, if you're a credit union and our corporate clients, is it helps keep them in the home, right, within the bank's walls.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It gives them another opportunity to cross-sell something of importance and significance that comes up, because foreign exchange is still very foreign.
Yeah.
Kind of going back to an earlier point that you were making, like a lot of fintechs kind of struggle with what is foreign exchange going to do for us, except for open up more opportunities, but really how does it work?
Yeah.
It still seems very hard to grasp or still foreign, as we say. But and for these banks, it's the same thing. It's not something that happens all the time. But for many banks, as their profile grows, as their bases grow, as the pedigree of their customer grows with the service they're offering, right? Like you were talking about Frost. Frost, they win numerous rewards.
Yeah,
awards
yeah.
on customer service.
Their customer service is next
really
to none.
Big,
yeah.
Right? And, offering that cross-border payment solution just keeps them away from competition, because that's one way to see customer creep.
Yeah.
Is if they start to grow in profile, your customers start to get bigger, they're getting good service, their business is going well, they're in the right industry segment, and they get bigger under that bank's umbrella, and then all of a sudden that bank can't fulfill that cross-border need, or like you were saying, the stale rate situation. If I can't get a dynamic rate because now I have a new supply chain somewhere outside of the U.S., what happens is they ultimately potentially have a risk where that bank is then using another bank, and what it gives that bank an opportunity to do is grab the most important piece of gold on the street, which is the deposits.
Yeah.
That is the most important thing to a bank, is keeping the deposit.
Yep. It is such an easy diversification, though. But like I said, going back to that education problem, we spoke to the Texas Independent Bankers Bank years ago. And I think at the time they were either switching providers, but it was like Wells or Chase that they were batch uploading payments to. And just for people that are listening, like a banker's bank is basically
a union of regional banks, basically.
It's interesting, and they can
Scale the
provide.
services,
They are a bank for other banks, so they can provide liquidity,
shared services.
Exactly.
More meaningful in a way, but the shared services,
and especially in America where the bank, like there's 1,000,001 banks or whatever, it just makes a lot of sense. But I remember speaking to them, and I was like, why are you doing it? And they're like, I think one of them said, she was like, we've been trying for years to open up our own trading desk so that we can like really monetize this. But it's something that when your upper management doesn't come from either the street, right, and they're very used to like a traditional banking, business of like loans to small businesses, deposits, whatever. Explaining FX is like, but how do we roll that out? And I think that's the thing, is it's like the rollout aspect of it, especially at a bank level. A, it has to be perfect. And B, like it has to be profitable from day one. And you have to have everything buttoned up. And I think it's just a little bit more overhead than, to us, it doesn't seem like a lot of overhead, but I think to them, the planning of it all, it takes a really long time to get perfect. Which is why like a sales cycle with a bank is like 18 months. Like it's not short.
It's not short. No. There's a lot of trust. There's a lot of trust that needs to be built up.
And they have to get independent audits and reviews to do it.
So
comply with Dodd-Frank, comply with this, comply with that.
Yeah, so standing up your own trade.
They have the rule book that they have to follow. They have to. When we're working with banks, they want to examine everything.
Yeah.
So much so that we have like a standardized package that we send out. We hope that is what they need, and it seems to them when we send it out, we're anticipating their needs. So that's one way of building trust is through the folks on the audit and compliance side. So you're right, and that it takes a long time for a bank to really warm up to it, because it affects every little piece of the operation, right, and including how all of this information gets back into their core,
right,
the brain of the bank, right, how that data flows back into it.
And didn't you guys just do a recent integration or partnership with, was it Fiserv? Or
we're really proud of the work we did last year with Jack Henry.
Jack Henry.
So we're directly connected. Our platform directly connects into their core,
which makes it easier for the banks to integrate, but still a challenge on the sales front.
It gives them it gives their customers and the bankers. Our customer is the wire team, and their customer, their corporate customer. But it really gives them the user experience of feeling like it's connected to the bank. You know, it looks like the bank. It actually shows their deposit when they're going in to process a cross-border payment in our technology. It shows them the balances that they have. It even stops them if they're over their balance when they try to process the transaction. And then for the bank, what it does is it takes in all the various inputs of the costs of the various transactions and channels in which the transactions are coming in, and places them in the GL, debits the customer's bank account automatically.
That's sick.
And then puts the charges in a counter for the monthly analysis.
Oh, wow.
So
that's great.
It really streamlines the process, makes life easier for the bank. And so that's the value and the benefit of the integrated offering, the API.
How long did that
API
integration
offering.
take you guys?
The integration that I just talked about took us a little over 90 days.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, we were pretty motivated to move.
Damn.
Yeah, we're definitely proud of the group that worked on that,
there was
project, because they were working day and night.
I'm sure.
Like,
I can only imagine.
Bloodshot early morning calls, weekends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
late
gnarly.
Nights. So yeah, that whole team.
Is there a timeline that you guys trying to meet, or just like, let's get this to revenue fast?
Yeah. So, the ultimate timeline was probably a bit more, elongated, right? We were going at the pace of development. This timeline was actually perpetuated by an event that occurred.
Right.
I'll stop
Oh,
at
I
that.
know the event.
I'll stop at
Yeah. Yeah, we can't talk about the event.
Yeah, but to say that.
How did that go, by the way? Did everything?
You know what? When I just reflected back on this over last weekend with about 140 folks at Corpay.
Yeah.
In reflection and talking about that case study, and I think it went very well.
Did y'all get a good surge in volume?
Indeed. Yeah.
That was like the
Our partners
coolest.
at Jack Henry were fantastic. The banks that put their faith in us and trusted us to manage a very difficult process. I would call this like how they say 10 out of 10, like the hardest possible. This is more like a 12 out of 10 in my mind. Really stretched our organization, and it's stretched the banks and Jack Henry, and we all of us, I think, and I'm speaking for them a little bit, but we achieved things that we did not believe were possible.
Yeah.
With the belief and faith
incredible.
in the partnership. So
And I'll
pretty proud of that.
I'll bleep this out, but like what the event that we're talking about is stuff. Hold off all. This will all be bleeped out. Things. Do y'all know what that?
No.
Yeah.
I actually don't.
Put two and two together, but
And off the podcast, I'm happy to share a little bit of that
Yeah,
backstory
yeah.
because it's one of those stories that you can relate to,
Yeah.
and it's not confidential or anything like that.
Yeah,
sure.
It's more of like a kind of a neat story in the fintech world, I think.
Yeah.
Even though we're talking about banks here, I feel like the fintechs are supporting banks, the BaaS, the PaaS, the embedded finance stuff.
Yeah.
That to me is really the future. That to me is the future. We're all, if you think about it, we all start with a purpose in fintech. But tell me your purpose hasn't changed since I met you.
No, of course.
The markets that you're serving, the purpose of the transaction, the why Route Fusion has changed along the way. Maybe not the identity of like what you started with, but the things that you are doing right now have probably evolved.
oh, fundamentally,
Right?
Drastically, yeah,
And same thing
drastically.
with Corpay,
yep.
and same thing with the rest of it. But what I'm also seeing in the space is this collapse, and it certainly started way before this conversation that we're having right here. I'm sure we've had this conversation many times, the four of us. But there is this sense of co-opetition, right? Where we're offering services that our partner is also offering, and that it's up to the eye of the beholder to understand whether or not we are really competitive or we're really cooperative, but competitive in certain areas. Like,
I think like
can we still change the game in the partnership?
I think like a good, and we're coming up on time, but I think a good way of describing that is like with y'all's Jack Henry integration, especially if a bank's core is Jack Henry, like if we were talking to the same bank, it wouldn't make sense for that bank to work with Route Fusion if you guys already have the Jack Henry integration going. But on the flip, if we're working with, I don't know, a LATAM fintech that needs access to European whatever and USD whatever and FX between certain aspects of that, Corpay's phenomenal at. But then certain aspects is like part of the other infrastructure that we've gone out to like fill in the gaps for.
Sure.
And that's when but if the customer is speaking both to Corpay and Route Fusion, it's effectively up to them, what you're saying, the eye of the beholder, to distinguish that. But it's also up to our sales teams to be able to like understand their needs and their problems and put it in front of them in the right way. All right, we got to wrap this up. I'm gonna leave on this, Chris. I think last week we were talking about compliance things, and I think something you mentioned, Nabs, is like, what is one of the most gnarliest compliance payment things while you've been, not necessarily at Corpay, just in general, your career, that you've come across? Like, it could be fraud, it could be someone trying to launder money that you guys caught, whatever it was. What's the best one?
What you're allowed to say.
Yeah, what you're allowed to say. Yeah. And it doesn't.
I really did have to think about that.
Yeah.
Not at Corpay.
I've seen offices shut down.
Not at Corpay.
Fraud.
Yeah, this is in a previous career.
Yeah, no, I'm actually thinking about when I first got into business.
Yeah.
Right. I was unanointed.
Yeah, sure.
I had not seen this level of fraud. You know, Pitney Bowes were talking about business owners, and you're actually, you know, belly to belly with a lot of these business owners. You're seeing things, so you know that the risk of fraud, you know, in postage meters. You know, I hadn't really seen any of that. But I will say probably the most interesting thing in my early days, what I saw, so not with Corpay, with another outfit, is we would get inbound leads. And being in Chicago, we would get a lot of these particular types of inbound leads.
Nice,
and,
like delis.
I'm a hungry young rep, right? And I get this lead, this call in, and you know, the voice over the phone was, you know, we have some sizable transactions that we'd like I think it was very polished. We have some sizable transactions that we're doing, and we're talking about, you know, 30 to 50 million. My eyes light up.
Yeah.
Really simple transaction.
Just needs to go from point A to point B.
We'll probably make multiple transactions. So you're seeing a little bit of the red flags that, you know, in the early days, you know, day 6.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not seeing. I'm really just trying to understand if I can solve a problem.
Right.
So I start qualifying. What are you looking for? The types of, you know, transactions, the money, the currencies. There's a couple major currencies. Ultimately, I was giving our pitch. I was trying to give our pitch, and I said, you know, let's talk about pricing. You know, where do you know, traditionally, where have you been on these transactions? And he said, well, why don't you name your price, and I'll think about it. And you know, I went high, and he goes, that's it? And I said, crap. I said, God, I got stuck in a negotiation where I left money on the table. I go, well, look, I want to learn a little bit more about your business, and I think we should meet. And at the time, the company I was with had a policy that you had to meet.
Oh, yeah, that's the thing.
Everybody.
Singapore, still, for some onboarding requirements in
face
Singapore, it's like
everybody.
that, yeah.
He's like, great, let me give you an address. Can you be there in an hour?
In an hour?
Yeah, and I'm downtown Chicago,
yeah.
and I'm thinking about, you know how I'm going to get to this address. I'm like, yeah, I scribble it down on a paper. I go, if you can give me 2 hours, I can guarantee I won't be late. You never know about traffic in the city.
Yeah.
Something to buy me some time and think about my pitch and, you know, this professional thing, and I'm going to meet him. It's an address in Chicago. Long story short, I get there, and the taxi driver says to me, I don't need to fill up, sir. And I said, and I looked around where I was, because I was like, you know, on my phone or whatever. I'm at a gas station, man. The guy gave me the address of the gas station. That's where he wanted to talk to me about the transaction. I'm like, out. I didn't even get out of the cab. I'm like, get back. Let's go back downtown. You know, $100 wasted, in traffic trying to get to this thing. And that was reality here. Like that is some shady stuff.
That is shady.
That's shady stuff. And then, in particular, fraud will occur in many different ways, but getting a salesperson on the phone is one of the first ways and some first defensive points in there.
Right.
So that's the shit.
They get you bought in, and all of a sudden
they get you bought in, and I've had
gas station.
I've had other reps that have had to go to the hood, like the address was on the south side, the deep south, and they were driving and it didn't look great, and they got to the place and it was actually like, the projects.
Yeah.
And so they got the heck out of there, But
why would they? That's so weird.
That's how you prey on it, right? Like they're looking for any way to enter the financial system.
Yeah, but you think that they would be a little smarter than to,
maybe they have, and they felt like something was off.
Go to Starbucks.
But that was
why
like
wouldn't
day.
you go to Starbucks?
That was day 6.
Unless they were going to take you hostage.
Yeah. That was 18 years ago, like day 6 at the office.
That's gnarly.
And then just watching the other reps get.
Were they
like
Russian?
that too. I don't know, because I never got out to see this individual, because once I knew that this is the situation, and I looked at the address and I looked at them like, oh, I'm out of here. I am not interested in engaging in whoever
That's so
this
funny.
was anymore. But they sounded so professional.
Yeah.
Right.
So it comes in all
practice
shapes and
makes
sizes,
perfect,
right?
right? They've
Exactly.
been doing a lot.
Exactly.
They're probably doing it, continue to do it.
I think
because
that's-
they've been successful.
This person probably saw my LinkedIn profile. He's like 8 days in. Right?
Literally.
Oh, I
Yeah,
got
probably.
this guy.
Literally. Well, I think also that's what a lot of these fintechs that are getting into payments. That's one of the biggest challenges they face is as like fintech ultimately is like a playground for people that have sophisticated fraud activities.
Yeah. Yes.
Because like they can go to these little fintechs that don't have I say we're a little fintech, but like they go to these fintechs that don't have sophisticated compliance programs, right, to catch these things. And we've seen it happen to a handful of our customers, like little amounts of fraud, nothing too crazy. But yeah, it's like it kind of like opens up the playground for trying new things out that the big banks or the regional banks or whatever have figured out now, and they shut down.
I'm really proud of what RevFusion's compliance program is, right? It's really strong.
What up, Mo?
And the approach that we took in developing our compliance program, and it's a selling tool as well for us.
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
It's one of the most important things that we talk about with our prospects and customers. Hey, we're here because our compliance is strong. So one of the way I describe compliance to customers and prospects is that we need to be able to defend our partners, ourselves, you and your customers in front of a regulator. And that's how we approach compliance.
Fantastic.
Are you interested in that? To be defended in front of a regulator, keep your business going, avoid a $100 million fine or a $50,000 fine.
Right.
I don't know what your bank balances are, right? 50,000 could put you out of business. Well, guess what? We've got that covered, and so do our partners.
Nice.
So that's what we do.
All right. Well,
Anyway.
It is 10:45, January 25th. I think it's actually gonna be a nice sunny Thursday potentially.
Tennis?
Hopefully.
This is
Gosh.
the ending of
Still a little
episode
wet
2. We got Nabil Nabs Cuddy Siddiqui. We got Rich
He
Scapatici.
hates that.
We got Chris the Backhand Morris.
Oh,
You like that? You like that?
my backhand's way strong.
Yeah. And we're not talking about a pimp hand. Keep that pimp hand strong, Chris. And I'm Colton. Catch y'all later.
See you later.
Thanks, guys. It's been a privilege. Happy to be back anytime.
I'm your boogeyman.